When people die, they remain in the memories of those left behind. It can be said that people continue to live in the hearts of others. We, who are left behind, will live honorably, and we will raise Chris and Maya, who have Ken's genes, in a respectable way. That is the greatest way to pay respect to those who have passed away.
My mother said these words to me. Yes. Thank you. I'll do my best. Even though Maya and Chris are still children and have just started junior high school, honey. It was my mother, living with me, who helped me to be back on my feet when I just had to cry. My mother seems like a very calm and capable person when I say that. Hey. What the heck is this bitter paste? Mom, you've created another weird health food.
I grated the skin of summer mandarins. The skin has nutrients, so eat it all.
What? Try it yourself. Maya. You have bed hair, so brush it.
Eat this instead, Maya. You are cute in bed hair.
Every day passes, making a racket in this house. I am Allison, 44 years old. I lost my husband Kent, who was 2 years older than me, 2 years ago. He was caught in a medical checkup, went to the hospital, found to be ill, and then it was over in no time. It was my mother, who was already living with me at the time, who saved me from my grief. Perhaps, because she had already lost her husband, her words were enlightening. Thanks to that, I can say that I was able to be back on my feet so fast. My mother started living with us in this house when my father died. Kent, my husband, suggested to me to live together as he thought she must be lonely living on her own. Because our children had grown up, we were working well together, sharing the responsibility, like my mother was in charge of housework, I worked part-time, and Kent worked at the office. It was just then Kent went out of the world all of a sudden. Kent was a respectable and kind husband, and I had no complaints about him, but there was a certain problem. It was something that had been bothering me since before he passed away. And when he passed away, that uneasiness grew bigger in my mind. The cause of the uneasiness was Kent's sister, Kathy. Kathy is a home economics teacher, and her husband is a social studies teacher who is 12 years older than her. Their older child is a girl and the younger one is a boy. What a great family. But this perfect sister-in-law has a haughty attitude towards me, which is horrendous.
I'm a teacher, and my job makes my life worth living. But I feel sorry for you, working part-time. You're going through life not knowing the joys of a responsible job. Oh, but that's right, you rely on Kent's income, don't you? Oh, wait. Do you also rely on your mother to do the housework? I'm a woman who juggles both work and home, and I have no idea how you feel about not paying attention to both of them. Hey, make tea for me, it's what you always do at work, right?
She looks down on me, which also drives me round the bend, but I could bear it because it was still made for me, but she even does that for someone else other than me. If my child says, my dream for the future is working at Sanrio because I like pom-pom pudding, then, for some reason, when I saw my sister-in-law's child following New Year's Day, she started to talk about herself, like, I want to work at Disney because I like Walt Disney, the creator of Disney is. Then my sister-in-law jumped in, saying, Disney is a bigger company than Sanrio, isn't it? My mother was quite good at sewing, so when she made a beautiful dress for my child for the graduation ceremony,
my child's clothes will be Olivia Morris brand. I'm gonna wear outfits matching the brand with my child. Well, you can't afford it even for your child, can you? Handmade? It makes me laugh. Brand name products are perfectly made.
Since her older and younger children were the same age as mine, we would come up with things like, who's not losing or winning every time. That's what my sister-in-law was doing, endlessly continuing to give us a haughty attitude. Now, today is the day that her haughty attitude became the worst ever. It was a line message that said,
I think it's time for you to move and get out of this town.
Then the next moment, I couldn't believe my eyes. She wrote,
No matter how I look at it from a worldly point of view, it's not right. Why is your mother even living with you in the house, which my brother left? I want you to move out of the house, so I'll try to come and talk to you.
What? I showed the line message to my mother, trembling at the sudden warning of disaster that had come down on me. The line message continued.
I'm on my lunch break, so it will be after I finish my overtime work at night, is that okay? Unlike you who work part-time, I have to work overtime.
Anyway, I was trying to calm down and think about how to deal with the accusations that my sister-in-law was going to bring against me. Even if something unpleasant happens, why does she come across with moving a house? No, it's impossible and it's so out of the blue.
I don't really understand, but you'll know when she comes. Don't worry. Hey, more importantly, you're upset, which means you're not getting enough vitamin C. Get some grated summer mandarins.
I don't care about summer mandarins right now. Let the summer mandarins back off. While struggling to remove the summer mandarins from my head, I had 4 hours to think before my sister-in-law arrived. Oh no. I can't come up with anything. All I can think of is that I don't want to move out. In the meantime, when I looked at my mother, she was eagerly pouring the new summer mandarin paste into a plastic container. No good, she is not even going to think about it. I have to do something, but I don't want to do this anymore. A cold sweat ran down my back. However, I didn't realize at that time that my mother's hands were faintly trembling with anger. I happened to learn that later. Now, my sister-in-law came over before 8 o'clock at night.
So, the main question is.
As soon as my sister-in-law sat down at the table, she cut to the heart of a matter.
Actually, my mother has been getting vulnerable and she can no longer stay separated from me. So we want to move in here, after moving out of my apartment and my husband's apartment. The reason that my mother became vulnerable was because my brother passed away. I mean, everything that happened on your side is the cause, isn't it? My mother gave birth to my brother, who created this legacy and then passed away. So it's humanly rational to give the house to my mother, no matter what the law says, isn't it? It doesn't make sense, does it? It's strange that you're living in the house my brother left, but it's even stranger that your mother also lives here. I'm talking about common sense.
What? If your own mother is going to join the family, shouldn't you be looking for a new place to live? Besides, is it our fault that your mother got vulnerable? Is it against common sense to live in my husband's house? What a great logic. When I was stunned by such a crazy theory, I couldn't even think of words to speak back to her, and I heard the voice.
What a crazy logic.
When I turned around, I saw my mother standing firm with her arms crossed. She had heaps of summer mandarin paste overflowing from her bowl. And she put the bowl of the piled up summer mandarin paste between my sister-in-law and me on the table with a bang.
If you have a screw loose like that, I hate to say it to my daughter's sister-in-law, though, don't you think you're not getting enough vitamin C?
When my mother said that, she stabbed the spoon into the pile. The piled up summer mandarin paste unpiled and fell on the table in a sticky mess. My sister-in-law let out a small yelp as my mother hit the roof. The extraordinary atmosphere automatically made me stop my mother. Mom. But she didn't stop what she had to say.
I've been thinking of telling you for a while. You're always saying nasty things to my daughter. Also, what the heck is the line message you sent today? You made my blood boil.
Mom.
What is so special about the teacher? It was your brother who fell in love with my daughter and proposed to marry her in the first place.
Mom.
Also, you keep harping on about working part-time. Then why don't you tell your brother in person, not my daughter, in front of his grave, that he doesn't know what to look for in people?
Mom.
You shut up for a minute. I have something to say.
As soon as I said Mom, which was intermittently followed by the words coming from my mother, she cut it off completely. My agitated mother didn't stop talking.
Your mother gets sick from the mental stress of losing her son. I understand that and sympathize with her. I was sad, too, when my husband passed away. But are you saying that's why you're asking my daughter to leave the house where she has memories? If my existence is a reason to kick her out, then I will leave here and live in your house. That way you'll have two people, one of them is even the mother of your brother's wife. You even look after others as well as looking after students at work. You can show off even more and get people's attention at work, can't you? Well, my neighbor, Marie, doesn't seem to be getting on with her daughter-in-law, so I'll invite her to come and live at your place with me.
Who the hell is Marie? Both my sister-in-law and I froze at the name of a stranger that suddenly popped out at us.
And you are such a narcissist, aren't you? I think you just pretended to be passionate about your work, and didn't look after your family. In fact, if you look at your daughter's academic report this time, you'll see. Her attendance is extremely low. You don't know that because you leave for work before your kids go to school. Your older daughter hasn't been to either school or to private tuition, of course. I saw her coming out of the game parlor in the shopping center. I called out to her and was surprised to hear that she hadn't been to school for a long time. When I asked her how she was paying for lunch, she said she was taking it out of her mother's wallet. How dare you say you're doing your job well, if you don't know what's left in your wallet? I can't believe that a woman, who can't even keep track of her wallet balance, can say she's doing her job properly.
I was surprised too, because I didn't know that my sister-in-law's daughter hadn't been to school or anything like that. However, I was even more surprised that my sister-in-law, the daughter's own mother, didn't know about it. But also, it is incredible that my mother figured it out. However, my sister-in-law must have been way more shocked than I was. She gasped with surprise.
You don't have to go to school if you don't want to. That's just one of those social things. Even if you don't fit in at that school, you can have a good time at other schools. When I said this, she told me the reason little by little why she couldn't go to school. Do you have any ideas why she doesn't go to school? Have you ever listened to your child?
My sister-in-law turned bright red. It's written all over her face.
Why do I have to be told off by an old woman I look down on?
Then, with that look on her face, she said exactly what I imagined she would say.
No, but isn't it too much to be told? I thought everything was going well because she didn't tell me anything. Then, would rather ask you, as you know, I work hard, go home, and devote my little time to my children, as much as I can. If you were me, madam, do you think you would be able to manage that? Don't say such arrogant things, even though you've never worked as hard as I have. I heard from my brother that you were only sewing in your spare time.
No, I wouldn't have been able to.
Quite simply, my mother admitted that she could not do as easily as my sister-in-law did. I saw my sister-in-law flinch when my mother suddenly backed off.
Couldn't, but at least I created an environment where we could talk about everything at home. Your girl also talked to me as my kids used to do. You're always so concerned about how other people think of you. Then you made your child say that she wants to work at Disney even though she doesn't want to. I heard you made her memorize the words of the founder. Your kid refuses to go to school because she would happen to go to a lower school than Maya's, if this goes on. What did you say when she showed you her grade? You said to her,
If you don't do better, you'll end up going to a school with a lower deviation score than hers. Are you gonna embarrass me?
After that, you muttered that you couldn't expect anything from her anymore. If she is going to lose, you would have to do something about it and kick us out of town, before the high school entrance exam. Now I got the point, when I heard what you're saying, and what your girl said the other day. Children aren't just for show. Even though she tries her best to meet expectations, her mother only looks at the score. You don't even tell her anything like, how about trying this way? Or I'm watching over you. In the end, it's about how others think of yourself. She has worked hard for her mother, but she couldn't stand it anymore. She can't see the future, no matter how hard she tries. Besides, her mother ended up trying to harm other family members as her child can't achieve the result. I don't think any middle school kid can be mentally stable in this situation. That's why she could no longer go to school or private tuition. This made me almost cry. I feel so sorry for her, don't you?
However, my sister-in-law was filled with complete pride.
Ah, you are really preachy. You got the information about my child's school refusal, and used that as a story to threaten me here. Who do you think you are?
Then she sucked in her breath and shouted out.
You're even living on pension.
Ding dong. Oh, a guest is here. In the midst of this tension, I let out a slurred voice.
It's not a guest, tell him to come in.
Mother took a spoon stuck in summer mandarin paste, and ate the bitter summer mandarin paste on it herself. The way she held the spoon in her mouth, made her look like even a big daddy with a pipe in her mouth. Meanwhile, I headed for the entrance. When I opened the door,
Good evening.
the person standing at the entrance was my sister-in-law's husband. He was about 12 years older than my sister-in-law, so his hair is thinning out.
I was called in by your mother. May I come in?
Yes. Without understanding what the situation was, I told him to make his way to the living room.
I'm sorry, I borrowed the phone book without permission, and made a call. Because you were groaning about what to do for 4 hours before this woman came.
She said that. I don't care about the phone book at this point.
Now,
My mother offered him to sit in the chair next to her, and she waited for him to sit down before starting again. Then, she said this to my sister-in-law.
can you say those words again that you just said to me?
Ah,
She was stumped for words.
Shall I say it for you then? Will you listen to me? Your wife said to me, you are even living on pension.
He opened his mouth wide. Of course he would. He was called in here out of the blue and was only told that phrase. There is no way that he would have understood what she meant. So, I had to explain it to him. It all started with the question of why my mother was living here in this house that her brother left. Then she yelled at us to leave, because it wasn't right for her that we were living here, and she wanted to live here with her mother to look after her. Also, she looked down on me, as I work part-time. Also, their child ended up refusing to go to school, as she just treated her own child as a means of showing off. When she could see that her child was unlikely to achieve the results she wanted, she started plotting to get rid of us, which led to the current move-out drama. I just briefly told him what happened. He nodded and listened to me. After hearing all the circumstances, he said,
Kathy, first of all, you said you wanted to move. I didn't think you were talking about this house. Why didn't you tell me about it? I don't understand that. Actually, I think it's crazy to kick them out of this house and live here. Secondly, what I want to say as a social studies teacher is,
Then the tone of his voice became harsher.
living on a pension is a legitimate right of taxpayers. Using it as a derogatory term for living on a pension is absolutely unacceptable.
He continued.
You do have a job, you are a teacher, and you are a mother. How many people have you sacrificed, and how many people have you disrespected for the sake of that kind of pride? You looked down on your sister-in-law, who works part-time, while you were saying you do have a job. Our daughter got cornered and couldn't go to school. Our rooms are so messy, aren't they? Because you don't do housework. But I've always thought that I was the one who decided to get married, and that it was my responsibility. But that's over now. You've shown off too much.
He then bowed to us for the last time.
This is my last duty as a husband. I apologize on behalf of my wife. I'm very sorry, and thank you for letting me know about our daughter.
I heard my sister-in-law sobbing. Finally, my mother spoke to her.
You called me a pensioner, didn't you? The clothes you're wearing now must be the Olivia Morris brand. I'm the one who sewed the clothes for that brand.
My mother said she used to work for a major clothing company, but I didn't realize it was Olivia Morris. I never knew that. I wondered if the clothes, which my sister-in-law mentioned that the brand name products were perfectly made, were made by my mother. No wonder the clothes my mother made for us were all beautiful and did last a long time. After that, my sister-in-law and her husband got divorced. He took custody of their 2 children. They moved out, but it was such a rural area. Everyone at her work did see her true color, that she was full of pride. Also, she ended up quitting a job as a teacher because she couldn't stand the situation. On the other hand, I've been spending every day with my scrappy mother and 2 cheeky daughters. Hey, Mom, what now?
Bitter melon paste.
No way. Thank you every day, Mom. Be our hero forever.